Welcome to AI versus Experience, the show asking who can do it better, artificial intelligence or the human experience. I'm your host, Andy Olen. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to AI versus Experience. My name is Andy Olen. This is episode 1. We are getting going, and I couldn't be more excited about bringing to you this podcast. You know, as AI has taken off, artificial intelligence is everywhere. We hear about it, we read about it, we see it in stock performance opportunities, we see it in business conversations, we see it in social conversations, we hear about it. It is everywhere. And, you know, as I think about this, I think about all the machines and all the servers and all the semiconductors that are running artificial intelligence. And basically, it's taking this collective information, this collective knowledge that it's captured over different data inputs and over many, many years and cycles of information sort of compiling and coming together. And then when we as humans ask it to do something, it gives us back answers and an approach. And the first time I used it was when my wife and I went to visit some friends in Nashville. And I said, hey, ChatGPT, can you just put together a 72-hour itinerary for us in our trip to Nashville? And it wrote out this beautiful itinerary of where to go, what to see, where to eat. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. So all that collective learning up to that point that AI had done helped us build a better itinerary. And so I got thinking to myself, well, you know what? Is this whole thing, is this like the Terminator moment? Is this when the machines take over? Is this the beginning of that? And a little bit of anxiety rose because maybe it is. I don't think so, though. I'm not a conspiracy theorist with that. And so I sort of set that aside. And I said, no, this is not going to be one of those really bad moments, as some people like to think about it as possibly being. Rather, this is going to be an opportunity. It's an opportunity for humans and machines to make great decisions, for humans to get new insights, to have a catalytic thought created or a concept shared through artificial intelligence that makes human beings make better decisions or to handle situations in the best way possible. You know, as a salesperson, as a business trainer, as a thought leader in the sales and business environment, and that's what my business is. It's to train other business people and salespeople to be the best that they can. And, you know, I think about this, that ultimately we are going to continue to thrive with connection. We are going to build human-to-human interactions that give us a lot of joy, that inspire us. And I think it's a great opportunity to see how technology can enable that. It already arguably has. I mean, I'm here with my cell phone. There it is. I got my cell phone here. That technology has enabled me to stay connected with people. Digital media, social media has done that as well. I think AI is just that next step. And it's going to really give us humans great ideas and great insights, great thoughts to have, and great, again, catalytic moments to get us thinking creatively and doing things creatively. However, I want to take on and challenge artificial intelligence here in AI versus Experience. I want to see, as I ask ChatGPT and other AI platforms over time, different questions. How would you handle this business situation, this interpersonal situation? I want to see what it comes back with, and I want to evaluate it. I want to give AI a grade. Is this a good way to handle this situation, or is it not? And so, of course, I need a co-host for the AI versus Experience podcast. And so I want to introduce you to my first co-host. Please say hi to Joanna. Joanna, welcome to AI versus Experience.
Hello, this is AI Joanna, and I am fired up to be on AI versus Experience.
Well, it's great to have you too. And for everyone listening, as Joanna just shared, she is artificial intelligence. And so AI versus Experience today is going to be me, the experience. I have 20 years of sales, marketing, leadership experience in corporate America and global jobs around the world. And over the last 4+ years, I've been running my own business. So I have some entrepreneurial experience, a lot of management experience. And so today I will play the role of the experienced human being taking on Joanna. So Joanna, are you ready to get going? Are you ready for your first question and situation that you're going to have to address.
Give me the question. Let's go.
Great. Well, let me give you the first question here on episode 1 of AI versus experience and see what you come up with. And I'm going to evaluate it, and then I'm going to give you a grade. So the first question I have for you, Joanna, is I want you to pretend that you're a regional sales manager and you need to fire one of your low-performing sales reps. In 100 words or less, Joanna, what would you say to that salesperson? And Joanna, the floor is yours. Give us your best answer to this question.
Dear Andy, I hope this message finds you well. I wanted to take a moment to discuss your performance as a sales representative. Despite various efforts to improve your results, I regret to inform you that your performance has consistently fallen short of expectations. Unfortunately, we have reached a point where continued employment with our company is no longer viable. It is with deep regret that I must inform you that we are terminating your employment effective immediately. We appreciate your contributions thus far and wish you the best in your future endeavors. Sincerely, Joanna.
Oh, boy, Joanna. Where do we start with this one? So I've had the experience, fortunately, unfortunately, it's part of being a business leader. I've had the experience to have to let people go. And it's never easy. It's always a difficult situation. Joanna, the first thing I would say about your response is it's interesting to see that you actually crafted an email for the sales manager to send to the low performing or underperforming salesperson. And so you took care of this in sort of, I would say it's a cop-out way, Joanna. I mean, you wrote an email, you hid behind the keyboard, you hit send on that email, and all of a sudden you fired me, the low-performing sales rep in this situation, and we never had a conversation. And I would say this is not a good way to let somebody go. This is not how you handle one of the arguably the toughest business decisions out there, which is letting someone go and then going through with that conversation of having a dialogue with that individual. And what I'd like to do here is, first off, I'm going to pick apart your not so good response to my question. First off, you said, I hope this message finds you well. Well, I would say right away, whoever's receiving this, in this case, it was me, you're sending it to me, thank you very much, by the way, that I know right away if I get I hope this message finds you well from my boss, that's not starting off real well. That sends up all the alerts. That's going to put me, the receiver of that note, on the defensive. And I'm not sure you really care how I'm feeling if you're about to fire me. If I've been underperforming and I've been an anchor on your regional performance as a sales manager, if I've been dragging you down throughout the last couple months while you've been performance managing me, then you're probably excited that today is my last day. So I don't believe it all. I find it highly insincere, Joanna, that you would start this email with, I hope this message finds you well. As I listen to your answer, and as I think about it a little bit more, what I just heard throughout the entire answer that you came up with was, although it was short and sweet, I'll give you probably credit for that. That's probably the most credit you're going to get on this one, is that it was really cold. It was really technical. It was really a lot of what I'll call HR speak or human resources speak. This is not how we talk to each other. I hope this message finds you well. I regret to inform you that your performance has consistently fallen short of expectations. You know, I don't know how many times in just a human interaction I've said, I regret to inform you, right? I just don't talk like that, and I'm sure many of the listeners don't talk like that as well. It was interesting then what I noticed in your note, and you did this a couple times here in the way that you would handle how to fire or let go of an underperforming sales rep, is that you use the pronoun we many times. Well, if you think about it, this was an email that you created to send this communication to me, to fire me, and at times you start with, I hope this message finds you well. So you start with the pronoun I, but then you rotate to the pronoun we. Who's the we? Unfortunately, we have reached a point where continued employment with our company is no longer viable. Are you talking about me and you, the manager and the salesperson? Are you talking about we, like you and your boss? That's confusing. It almost feels like you're bringing in a different pronoun, the pronoun we, to like take the responsibility off your shoulders. I don't agree with that. I would choose to use the pronoun I all the way through. I assume that you're making this decision on your own, and it's you that are communicating it to me. So twice you say, unfortunately, we have reached a point. And then later you say, we appreciate your contributions. Again, as the receiver of this one, I'd be pissed off to get it. I'd probably not even make it through to the bottom, at least not on the first read. After I simmered down and probably had a drink or two, I'd come back to this a little bit later on and then reread it. And then I'd really be confused of like, who are you talking about with we appreciate your contributions thus far? Well, my contributions, Joanna, ended right there. So I have no more contributions to give. I would have probably rewritten that. I appreciate your time at the organization. Take out thus far and say, but now that time has come to an end. And then you say at the end, we wish you the best in your future endeavors. That's, again, very technical speak. It's very, it's not how people talk to each other. So it's a very cold email that you wrote. And so here's what my advice is. First off, before I give the advice, let me give a grade to you, Joanna. I give this a grade of D minus. And the D here is pretty close to failure, but D means don't do this. So for everyone listening out there, if you have to have the tough conversation with a salesperson, with someone who's working for you, and you need to let that person go, do not do what Joanna just shared with you. Here, experience and following a much more empathetic and thoughtful, genuine approach from one person to another, even in this tough moment, is going to serve you best. So this is absolute D for don't do, Joanna. This was not well done. So let me share with you some best practices here to rotate to some advice and to a way that you can approach this situation if you find yourself face to face with having to make a firing decision. Again, arguably for me, over the course of my healthcare career, I probably had to let go, of underperformers, 5 to 10 people, and then through larger sort of actions that we had to take where we removed a whole role. So even if you were a decent performer, the role might have been eliminated. That's usually called a RIF, or a reduction in force. 30, 50 people throughout my career, and it was super hard. And what I would recommend here, first off, is don't hide behind an email. Letting someone go is a very personal decision. It is a tough call, and there's a human being on the other side who's not going to feel good about this. So do this in person. Now, interestingly, usually when you get to a situation where you have an underperforming person, this is step number 2, or idea number 2, is hopefully you as the manager have been giving this individual really good performance feedback and coaching during their low performance. You give praise when people are doing well, but it's also your responsibility as a manager to give people a constructive critique or performance coaching, saying, hey, what you're doing right now isn't good enough. So by the time you get to this really sort of dramatic moment of having to terminate someone's employment, it should be no surprise. And so I would even say things like this: hey, we've had an ongoing conversation about performance. You knew what my expectations were. You knew and know what the organization's expectations are, and you're not able to meet those expectations, and it's time that we move on. And that's an honest comment. That's a very sincere comment. And if you've been doing your job as a manager or performance coaching that individual, there should be no surprise. And that's a line that you can use that really sets in motion why this action is being taken. Now, interestingly, I know it's really tough for you as a manager to let someone go and to deliver that message. However, for the person receiving it, if they're not performing well, if it's been a fight for the last 6 months and it's not going their way, they're not happy. The news that you may be giving them that it's time to turn the page, to take a step towards a new organization, a new moment in your career, that may be the most welcome news that an individual hears. And it might actually be sort of the kick in the ass that that person needs to actually go out there and find a much better home and to find a better job with a better environment to flourish in. When people aren't performing well, they don't enjoy the job anymore. They don't enjoy what they're doing. Now, some can work their way out of it, and that's fantastic if you have that. But you actually may be giving a message to someone that even though there's frustration and anger and disappointment on the front end of it, and hearing it, maybe even shock, upon some reflection, they might say to themselves, you know what, that was the best thing that could happen for me. And I actually needed that to happen. So I want you to go in there thinking about that too, is that you may be actually in a very tough moment, actually giving that individual what they need to turn the page as well. And that becomes a decent outcome for you, not ideal, but a decent outcome for you and a decent outcome for that position, for that person as well. Ultimately, if you have been coaching, it should not be a surprise that you're at this point. And, what I would say too is keep it as find the right balance between the formality of the message and the informality of the message. Find the happy medium. When you let someone go, and I'll speak to my experience primarily in the US, but I've had to let someone go in France. I've had to let someone go in the Netherlands. So I've had to deal with different legal environments, contractual environments, and you really need a good HR human resource partner with you to work through this. I always, when I went through a conversation like this, I had a teammate with me, and that individual was usually my human resource business partner who was there. And sometimes you do have to give a couple of sentences that are a little bit more scripted. It's a good idea to role play with your business partner before you do this in the live and real situation with that employee sitting next to you. And that HR business partner is going to be a super helpful ally in this situation and can answer many of the more detailed questions. Maybe there's a severance involved. What about benefits? What about the last paycheck? When do I return my stuff? And that HR business partner is going to give you what you need. And so that really is why you want to do this in person too. An email like Joanna shared with us is really not giving a lot of opportunity for that individual receiving this news who's been impacted by this decision to ask questions, to put a face to the decision. And so I really like doing this, if I have to do it, with a business partner, someone who can humanize the experience, both for me as a person having to deliver the message, making me feel more comfortable, and also allowing for that individual receiving this tough news to ask questions and to follow up and to see that there is still an organization that's going to support this person through the next few steps of this career transition. So with that said, I want you to think a little bit about if you ever saw the movie Up in the Air. This is a movie with George Clooney and Anna Kendrick, and George Clooney's job as a consultant was to fly around the country up in the air and to deliver the bad news of having to downsize organizations and to give people their severance package and their outsourcing package and all of the support and resources that people usually get. And that was his job. And he was like a robot doing it. And he was counting his miles and his points, and his whole life sort of revolved around how many points he could accumulate being up in the air and traveling around. And he fired people. Anna Kendrick joins him, and the first time that she has to let somebody go, she screws it all up. She's challenged by that individual. She's trying to read the script, trying to be so cold and robotic, and it just blows up in front of her. George Clooney has a hard time helping her through that. So, doing this is not easy. So definitely practice it on the front end. Definitely role play with your HR business partner, with your manager. And again, I think the key takeaway here too is it shouldn't be a surprise if you've been giving consistent feedback all along the performance management experience. If someone's doing well, they should know you're happy with that. If someone's not doing well, you also have a responsibility to give that person that type of feedback so that individual is able to either course correct, or when you get to this point where you have to let someone go, then you can actually do this in a way that shouldn't be and share a message that shouldn't be a surprise. In terms of the amount of time, and I'll conclude with this piece of advice, is that usually in terms of the amount of time it takes to deliver this message, I don't think it needs to go very long. This is not a comfortable moment. You don't want to sit in this moment. I don't think the person receiving the message wants to sit in this moment. So I think there's a real elegant way to be short, to be concise, to be direct, but also to be empathetic, to be genuine, and maybe even share the why. Here's why this is happening. Let me share this with you again. And to really just sort of understand the moment and to reflect on that. Hey, I know this is tough. I know this is not the news you may have wanted to hear. It's certainly the news that I didn't want to hear. I'm disappointed that we're here. Here's why we're doing this. And, today's going to be your last day. And we're going to walk through some of the steps here on how this is all going to roll itself out and play forward. So again, that can be short. It can be sweet. It can also be genuine and empathetic as well. And I think that's really, that takes some role playing. It takes some practice. And then if you have to do this a few times, you do get a little bit better. And really, once you're done with taking this action, the individual on the other side of the room, that's going to be a tough day for that individual. For you, it's time to move forward. You have to communicate to your team. You have to move things forward. The business continues to move forward. And pretty soon, everybody does really well. I think for everybody that I've let go, I've gone back on LinkedIn or elsewhere to see how they're doing and what they're up to. And they've all been successful. I mean, they just got to find the right home in the right place. And not that they're calling me up and saying, Andy, the best thing you ever did for me was to let me go. Not at all. I would never expect that. And so I just think that, people can receive this news and maybe it is the message they needed to move on and find a better home. And I really wish people success no matter what journey they're on. And I do recognize how challenging a moment this is. So I'm really glad to have gotten a chance to share this with you on episode 1, one of the toughest things a business manager does. And it was fun to ask you, Joanna, what you would do in this situation, about how you would go about telling an underperforming sales representative how you will remove or excuse them from the business. And in this moment, Joanna, experience 1.
I learned a lot today, Andy. I could have done better. I still have a lot to learn about how to empathize and connect with people even in tough moments like this. I agree, today, experience 1. But, I'll be back next time. Remember, I keep learning.
Joanna, I know you'll be back, and I know you're always learning. That's both scary and good, but it's going to make for a lot of fun on AI versus experience. The marriage of technology with people, combining the interesting insights of what artificial intelligence can give us, along with the human capacity to care, to emote, to make it our own, to be authentic and genuine, and to connect, communicate, and cooperate with other people. That's where AI versus experience is heading. We're going to continue on this path and take on business topics. We'll take on legal topics. We'll take on accounting topics. We'll take on entrepreneurial topics and life topics as well, and see how our other friends in artificial intelligence answer and solve different solutions, and whether or not it's AI who has the right approach, or in this case, it's experience. My name is Andy Olen. Thank you for listening and tuning in to episode 1 of Artificial Intelligence versus Experience. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Andy, for having me on today.